Hello, everyone. We are KOSMOS Architects, and we are very happy to record this lecture for Center of Canadian Architecture. Thank you for inviting us to this lecture series, which is called Docu-Drama. We are three partners from KOSMOS Architects, me on the left, Leonid Slonimsky, Artem Kitaev in the middle, and Nikolay Martynov on the right. We're all from Moscow, where we originally studied in Moscow Architecture University. And later we have moved quite a lot in the last 10 years. Currently we're located, I'm in Zurich, Switzerland. Artem is in Graz, in Austria, and Nikolay is in New York. In the meantime, we also lived in Basel, Vienna, Geneva, Bangkok, Tokyo, where we studied, taught, worked. And today's lecture is dedicated, and it's called Docu-Drama, and is dedicated not only to our work, and the idea is not only to discover our work through beautiful images, how most architects do, but also to show and to share with you the backstage, the documents, some negotiations, the networks of connections and conflicts, and some hidden things which are sometimes banal, but sometimes are quite interesting. They also show in a less kind of clean and cosmetic way, the way how we as architects work. And that's why we also show this image, which is quite ironic nowadays. Basically, it's an image of how we worked, even before the pandemic. It's like via Zoom, via WhatsApp. And we always were thinking how like the way of our working, of this distant working, is quite unique. And now reflecting upon this after 2020, it makes us smile how basically now the whole world, and we again recording this lecture, speaking about the way how we work distantly via Zoom or via Skype. Here you can see an old screenshot from Skype of how we're working when some of us had more hair, less beards, or less kilograms. And I would like to give now the word to Nikolay, who will start with the first project, Emma Space.
So hello everyone. The first project we want to show is Emma Space. Emma stands for Electrical and Mechanical Apparatus Factory. It's located in the center of Moscow. And please next. And this is how it looks. It's basically a collection of old brick buildings from like 20th century. And our client hired us to like create a creative cluster within the space of this factory. So at the time of the project, actually the industrial renovation had its boom in Russia and in Moscow in particular. So you can see here is just a basic Google search for like factory renovation in Moscow, and most of the projects had the same very like similar character, sort of loft style, very traditional, polished brick and like brushed brick, some wooden details, very nice approach, which kind of like works with these romantic buildings from the past, but somehow it became a cliche at that time. So this was one of the first collages we made for the client. And our idea was to propose them to do something different this time. And the factory consisted out of like series of building blocks that created a series of interconnected courtyards. When we proposed to like actually focus our attention on the courtyard space and create a sort of like slightly retro futuristic, like theatrical stage for events. Next. So this was our first conceptual model that we used to present to the client and to sort of persuade him to go for a little bit of alternative approach. So here the factory buildings are represented as empty voids, and what you can see is the outdoor public space. We propose to wrap the building volumes in this insulating reflective material and create like a uniform space, and um, that will create like a theatrical sort of almost stage effect for events, for like public lectures, for like movie screenings, for parties and so on. The material we proposed was insulating foil. It's usually a very like technical material that you never see in the building, but it kind of creates very interesting reflective effects. And we wanted to wrap the building volumes in almost like a curtain of this material that can like pick up the color of the sky, can reflect a lot, and that can be very like uniform across the whole building. So here you can see actually the mock-up of that condition. So there's a brick wall of the existing factory that initially the client was thinking to like clean up and brush and make it perfect. And like on the right, you can see the folds of this foil material. And this was one of the moments when we were actually able to persuade them to go for this like kind of alternative solution, because the scale of this falls and like sort of like the visual effect was like so stunning that can from that moment and going on, and like everyone like really liked it. So you can see here how the whole building volume looks like, and for us it was like important uh, to keep this handmade effect of this wall, to make it look like very soft, very thin, and almost like curtain-ish, very abstract and like theatrical. This is the main space of the project. It's where all the major events were happening, and the space is activated by this suspended network of wires with lights and speakers. We called it within the team the digital sky. And when the events were happening there, all these lights were like blinking, and it created like sort of very like ethereal effect. In front of that space, there was like another object that we used and proposed to activate the space. It's like so-called moon. It's a disc, a white disc, 9 meters in diameter, that were used during the events for like video projection, video mapping, and for like some art. And like you can see here during the day, it's like at this scale, it's so like strange and um, slightly weird that it's very unique object that kind of made this space feel even more abstract and like theatrical. Next. We used a special paint for it that is typically used for like road construction work, and it has this particles in it that reflect the light, which made the object even more like whitish, actually almost without any shadows, and like purely whites during the day. That's the view of the whole space together with the digital sky, with the moon, and with like two buildings on either side, like wrapped in the foil. And it's very like probably like rare condition of the project where there's like not a single person in there. It's like pre-party time. And if you go to the next slide, this is how it looks like while it was in action. And in that summer in Moscow, the space became probably like one of the most Instagrammable space in Moscow. Everyone loved it. And one of the cool perks of the project were those silver blankets. So everyone that visit the space will be given a silver blankets to sort of like become part of the performance and part of aesthetics of the space. And you can see here like our partner Artem on the right, like wrapped in one of those blankets. And like later after the event is done, like all the people will carry them away with them, and like everywhere around Moscow you'll sometimes see like strange people wearing these blankets, sort of like spreading the influence of the space like around the city. That was one of the nice surprises. Like one of German magazines put our project on its cover, and thanks to them for doing that. It feels really nice. We've been always called like young and Russian in media, but this probably was the first time when we were called hot.
Or not maybe we.
So the document WhatsApp book is as the following project related to the space, which is kind of like another big part of this project is the way we collaborated on it. And at the time when everything was happening, all our team was dispersed between Moscow, between Europe and United States. And while designing the project, we were actually never in the same physical space. So after construction, we published this book, which is basically a recording of the WhatsApp chats that we used to communicate and to discuss the project. And like there were like 200 pages of text and images that basically described the whole process from the very beginning when we just were approached by the client until the very end when the project was done. So you can see here some of the references of like light fixture, like a map of the sky, like a logo, and material references. And it's kind of interesting to look at it because like when 6-7 years ago when it was built, it felt like something new and very unusual way to work on it. But like these days during Corona times, like doing everything through the chat is sort of like becoming a norm. So some of the text you can see is like blacked out. Probably we were gossiping about like the quality of construction or like some tight deadlines or maybe like some reactions from the client, like joking around as well. You can see some collages, pictures from the space, probably like some random references. There's one picture of our friend having a wedding there.
And the next project, which we will show, called Airbox, Challenging the Stereotype. Yes, my name is Artem Kitaev, and I'm the guy with the silver blanket, which Nikolay showed some slides before. Next one, please. Airbox is the project for sports center for Nike sports brand in Gorky Park in Moscow. Gorky Park in Moscow is like Central Park in Moscow. And in order to choose the architect to build this building, Nike, together with Strelka KB, had organized the competition, which we won. And here you can see our competition entry. And we came up with a quite simple but striking proposal where light open frame structure was transforming sports center into the open street workout and public space, which were together different type of users and different type of visitors, and activate all the area of the park around. But if you think you won a competition, and even though this competition was published and announced, it would be easy to build exactly what you designed. It's not exactly like this in Russia. So the next document called something Soviet but sporty. Since we start the design, some powers from client side approached to us with different ideas how to modify our design. And now we will share several pages from presentations from the client. Like this page, what foreign designer or architect doing when comes to the new land? Of course, we have to integrate local context. So that's how some designers imagine Moscow. But to most of the Moscow citizens, Moscow looks like that, with the suburbs and the half-abandoned sports ground and a lot of greenery. Innovation and local art. It wasn't really clear what our advisors mean by innovation, painting from 18th century, or local art. Is it logo of Nike placed on top of Doric column? But we had to somehow deal with all of this. And next one, please. Of course, we faced this. Sometimes we're completely lost. Like in this image, for example, what's written in Russian on the facade: if you have body, you that. And we apparently spend much more time and effort into defending our project from different ideas rather than designing, rather than working on the concept itself. Yes, of course, in interior, we were proposed to make Soviet parquet floor with some graffiti on top, but we were still fighting for a proposal, and we were very happy when we managed to complete our building quite close to what we wanted from the very beginning. So here we can see the main view, the main entrance into the sports center. Here we can see the lounge under one of the flaps of the building. Here we can see the other side of the building with an inclined flap, which is supposed to work as a street workout and elevate visitors up to the rooftop. And yeah, another quality of the design of the building, it's supposed to be very transparent. We call it among ourselves naked building. So all the processes, including the technical rooms and all the sports facilities, should be visible from the outside. And yeah, the only bright place and enclosed space in the entire pavilion was changing room and toilets, colored in total powerful red color. And yeah, as we imagine our concept at the very beginning, our building at the concept stage, it's supposed to be street workout, open frame park facilities where accessibility of this infrastructure would be defined by the braveness of the users and the power of their muscles. But at the opening, park has informed us that we're not allowed, people are not allowed to climb it and even approach this building. So the diagram would look like this at the day of the opening. And yes, this photo was made a couple of hours before the opening. So you can see the administration of the park has put some restrictive signs which didn't allow to to come people up the rooftop, and as well several well-dressed gentlemen was assuring that no one is approaching the building, doesn't try to pull up or even touch it. Nevertheless, power of youth managed to find a way to activate the space and to climb it and to appropriate it. And this building and the entire space around happened to be one of the most popular public spaces in Moscow that year. And I hope it still remains quite a high status of popularity.
The next project which we would like to introduce to you is Forum Basel, challenging the museum institution. We will move to Switzerland right now, and the project was an exhibition in Swiss Architectural Museum. And for us, and our co-curators from Chile, and for the director of the museum, who was recently appointed a director of the museum, Andreas Ruby, it was very important to challenge the institution of Swiss Architectural Museum, which on a normal day looks like this. As we all know, Swiss architecture is known for its quality. It's very proper, it's very beautiful, it's very well done. But at the same time, this is how we imagine the typical architectural exhibition, Swiss Architectural Museum, and even us being architects would not always be super excited to go to such an exhibition. And therefore, we proposed a completely new concept. We called it Forum Basel. We proposed to turn the whole museum space into a new public space, basically interior public space, and even abolish the entry fee. And therefore, on each of the posters, that's an official poster of the exhibition, there was a big stamp, free entry, so everyone knew that you could go. But it went, our idea went even further. So the idea was to really transform this space into a vivid public space where people would party play ping pong, throw confetti. And here you can see our works exhibited on the walls, but people are like rare people. Like this guy is looking at it, and most of them are just having fun, like our friend in the front of the image, or playing ping pong, like on this image, because we installed the huge ping pong tables in the middle of the exhibition, so that first we densified the space, so people were really tight in the space, and second, that people were really, you could always hear the sound of the ball, of the tennis ball, laughing of the people. People were amphitheater, and was really a lively space. People were also voting for their favorite public spaces, throwing confetti, like you see on the head of the guy in front. And actually, the museum really became a public space. Yet we had an interesting. We have an interesting document which shows that not all our ideas went through. And this document, we call it "We allow a free roof terrace, but it is forbidden to use it." That is a citation from a document. Here is just like a later recording of the discussion, where the museum curator was very kind of in polite way called it, despite the interest of Kunsthalle, the idea met a strong resistance. Which idea he's talking about? He's talking about the idea that we wanted to activate the rooftop of the building, which is in the center of Basel. It's a beautiful beautiful space, which is flanked by beautiful greenery, overlooking a very nice cafe and the medieval church. And basically, we have done everything to make it happen, and opened the windows, purposefully built steps leading people up this space. But finally, we were allowed to do it. Roof terrace is okay, but people cannot use it. So finally, we had to put, as you can see in this image, a typical museum or airport red rope, and keep this beautiful green terrace surrounded by green completely unused. And also, we were told to chain all the chairs and tables with the chain, just in case there's a hurricane wind, and this, even without use, these tables and chairs will cause danger to the citizens. But still, in the interior, we managed to keep the festive and public atmosphere, and even invited a street band which played music. And in the end, it was a very happy moment and a very cheerful exhibition. And we exhibited on this exhibition a series of projects which we call Together Spaces, and challenging Swiss regulations. And it is a series of spaces which are dedicated to Swiss cities and to their public spaces. And on this image, you can see that basically Swiss cities, and particularly Basel, where we started our research, is quite an ideal postcard city. And it's a very well and designed buildings and public spaces. Well, almost, because in Switzerland, there's this problem of regulations, and we would even say over-regulations. So this is a screenshot from one of the children playgrounds, where basically nothing is allowed. And this was the thing to which we reacted. And we created a series of spaces which were slightly provocative, but at the same time meaningful, discovering the hidden potential of the city. Like, for instance, this image is proposing to transform a hidden dark underground medieval tunnel, which is passing the center of the city, into a botanical garden, or proposing to build a floating art gallery which would be free of charge and would transport people from one side of the river, famous Rhine River, to another with only the power of the current. And we propose to put it in the new industrial area, where people can see art performances, and also to use the banks of the river as the place for the audience. Or we propose to transform the traditional medieval Basel fountains, which you can see here, which are particularly sad on a cold winter or autumn day, into public warmed up baths, where people can share a collective ritual even in the winter. And basically all these projects were with a very minimal intervention, but with a quite a big provocation. And funny enough, we thought that this was 3 years ago. Funny enough, 3 years ago, we received an email from, and this is one of the positive examples which we will share today, when the docudrama is actually like a positive reaction and the document will be like a nice one. We received a document from a very conservative institution, Basel planning officials, which said basically, we like your provocation, please carry on. And we were proposed to participate in establishing several new principles for the open space for tomorrow, basically for 2050 for Basel, and to continue this exhibition. And we have designed together already with the public officials, with the planning officials of Basel City, several new concepts like the totally public and exchangeable spaces of the ground floors of the industrial areas of the city, or a green network on the rooftops which connects the city on the top level as opposed to the ground floor, or transforming the transport intersections during the after rush hours, weekend days, and the times when it's more free into public spaces, markets, and other public activities, or adding pedestrian and bicycle green links above the otherwise very deadly and unused and non-public railway stations. And yeah, that was a very nice experience, which we hope one day will transform into real projects. And here, speaking about real projects, I would like to share with you a very small interior projects. We jump from an urban scale into a small interior one. We call it Dark Garden, and we named it Challenging Comfort. Once we were proposed to participate into a competition for I wouldn't say it a very glorious program. It was a VIP lounge of a provincial airport. And basically, it was not so much money we were proposed. It was not such an interesting topic to us, but we decided to go all in. And as a point of critique, as a point of starting, we started to look at the typical VIP lounges. Basically, it's just a place for resting. And somehow they have this code of kind of grayish, beige, comforty, neutral space where people have to rest. And we quite disliked it. And because we were not really aiming to win this competition, we decided to get really inspired and to do what we really believed and what we really liked. So as a point of departure for our project, we took this painting of Arnold Böcklin, which is called The Isle of the Dead. And it's quite famous one where it describes, yeah, and we thought that basically in the rush of the airport, and also given the context of no windows, we proposed to even exaggerate the context which we were given and to make a completely black space with a small island of real greenery inside this airport, inside this buzzing and rushing generic machine of comfort and let's say interaction. We'll make a peaceful black space, and basically this is how our competition proposal looked like a completely black black space with islands of real greenery. And funny enough, we won this competition. It was a surprise for us. The client liked it. We won it and we built it. And here you can see 1 year later, this is a built project. It was completely painted black. We really managed to install this real greenery there. It looks a bit fake, but I think it's because of the strong light and the contrast with the black one. And in the end, it was a place where, how we perceived it, where people could really disappear in this blackness, sit in these little niche chairs, which almost like having a monastic moment of reading a book, being a bit tight with the one lamp, completely swallowed by the green or the black. And speaking about the non-positive documents, we received a huge PDF which consisted of the reviews to the space, and basically 99% of them were terrible. No one really liked our space. So you can, I mean, I wouldn't read it all, but basically here it says like, it's a very bad design, it's really scary, it's really dark, we really don't like this radicality and so on. And for us, it was quite important, as Artem showed in the Nike project, where we used the totally red energetic color. Here we also wanted to use the total interior. This is quite important in our practice. And basically all the comments were really bad, and allegedly we don't know what really happened later, but I think on the right is an image from what they transformed the lounge in, is exactly this kind of beige, brownish, neutral, comforty space, which was the starting point of our critique and of our reflection. And basically this project, although the reaction of the public was not successful, but somehow the client liked it, liked working with us, and they proposed us another project, which is, on the contrary, quite a great typology. It was a huge airport project in Kamchatka, in a very beautiful land. But from the beginning, we were given this. This is a screenshot from the news report, which says, on Kamchatka, they will build an airport in the shape of the volcano will be built. This was a base point of our departure. Basically, we were given this image, we were given this project, and said, guys, we know you did quite a good job in the previous project. Before they saw the reviews of the customers, can you make us a new design? The only thing, we need to keep the volcano. So we started, and basically it had some sense, because Kamchatka is a unique, beautiful natural space in the basically 10,000 kilometers east from Moscow, almost on the border with Japan, with beautiful volcanoes next to the ocean, with beautiful nature. And they need, it's a place where many tourists come, and they really needed an airport. And the project lasted for 3 years, and for 3 years we were designing, and finally we designed a project with which we are quite happy. It has a very simple form. It's a circular airport, which is not at all simple for the airport technology. We have also to understand that in Kamchatka there is lots of the shape is particularly simple, because in terms of facade, because there's lots of restrictions. For instance, there's 2 centimeters of volcano ash which fall yearly on the facade. There's the problem of icing of the facade and so on. So we tried to make a minimal building with a big interior courtyard, as you can see here, which would give you some warmth in this kind of cold surroundings. And basically we did a project which we were pretty happy with, and although it's maybe not the most extraordinary architecture, we were quite happy. And this is the image of the interior courtyard, which was particularly important for us, that people could, after they register, go out, have some time, have a smoke, children could play. And here are some renderings from the project. The project went almost till the construction documents. And here is the document which we would like to share with you. Is the basically it was an endless project. During 3 years, we have made more than 100. We stopped counting them, of facade and interior options. And here is just a screenshot of different PDFs. So each one contains like around 100 pages, and we could scroll this Google Drive later and later, and they will be continued coming, these options. And we were testing hundreds and hundreds of options, and the client was never happy until they said the project is fine, do the final renderings, the ones you saw previously, and we are going into the construction. And then a pause happened. We didn't hear anything until we again opened the news, like 3 years ago when we were given the project, and we saw that they're building a project in Kamchatka in shape of volcano. And this is how the project looked. So some unknown to us at this time architect has designed this thing, which in our opinion didn't go very far from the first reference which we were given, and was completely the contrary of what we tried to do and what our values are. And later we found out that the architect was the famous classic of Italian design, which allegedly built a house for Kanye West. And we were thinking, like, was it really worth 3 years, hundreds of options, Italian maestro, and so much work from us to get to that?
And the next project, which we would like to show you, called Park Switzerland, Challenging Ambitions. Park Switzerland, located in Nizhny Novgorod, it's a city in Russia. It's provincial but quite big industrial city, 500 kilometers from Moscow. And Park Switzerland, it's the name of the park, which was named after Switzerland because of extremely beautiful and picturesque landscape. The park was founded in the beginning of 20th century, and through 20th century received different eras of development. And it was Soviet time, there was 90s, and through last decades, it was developed quite spontaneously without master plan and populated and busy with a lot of self-built projects. And the document which would like to share with you called Public Hearing versus Government. Since 2017, when in Moscow Zaryadye Park was open, Zaryadye Park is a very centrally located park right next to Kremlin, which was designed by dealerska Fidio plus Renfo. It's not exactly park, it's actually a lot of public buildings, restaurants, conference center, and parking lot covered by lawn and trees. But this project received extreme popularity among Russian citizens and become symbol of a new time. And this success of this park to repeat success of this park was a dream of all the local governors from different regions. And I could even call it Zaryadye effect, like Bilbao effect in Spain and in the rest of the world. So all of them tried to build in any provincial city as much as possible restaurants, observation towers, overhanging bridges, and other structures to attract citizens, tourists, and most important, high-positioned politicians. But the local community and the citizens were quite surprised with such an approach to a highly restricted area of construction. It's a natural area of preservation, and massive protests started, and most of them were against any new construction and development of the park. In many ways, it's related to general relations in between Russian citizens and the government, where citizens don't have so much they don't believe so much in promises of the government. And one of the main arguments of the local community was, if we let it build a new kiosk, they will build new office in the middle of the park zone. Nevertheless, this protest, I think, helped a lot to clear up the project and get rid of unnecessary functions and too much of politicians' ambitions, and made it really well fit in the natural environment. So on the top, we can see the buildings, the footprints of the Schwarz plan of the buildings in the park before the renovation, and in the bottom, that's how it will look after renovation will be complete. So according to the revised concept, we occupy only the holes in the dense forest of the park, and all the big functions like squares, entrance squares, or sports center or sports grounds located on the places where previous construction and development had happened in the park. We organized the park in 21 small parks, 21 zones. So we took 3 landscape zones, multiplied them with the 7 themes of the park, and received a matrix of 21 parks, which assure slight and soft gradient among different functions in the park. And the allocation of the object on the master plan was done with the method of acupuncture. So we punctually placed in the needed places needed types of functions and try to emphasize the existing qualities of the master plans, like some with classical alley, some with picturesque natural walks through the nature. And as for the architecture, we developed this design code of light open frame pavilions of a green color. We decided that the green color is something what should unite them, and we like totality in many of our projects, like the one we showed before, Emma with the silver facades, or red core in Nike, or total black in the airport lounge. As well, here we decided to introduce this green color for the light wood construction. So you can see this color helps them to mimic with the greenery of the park, as well as the architecture, how here the forest of the columns of the entrance pavilion carefully integrated in the forest in the natural forest and mimic with the trunks of the trees. Or beautiful colonnades and arcades, where we try to balance design in between classical park pavilions and contemporary light and open frame colonnades and structures. Yeah, and these pavilions penetrate in between the trees and take the available slots in the park to place new function, like here, social center for the community. Or playground for the kids in the children's center. Here we can see the sports square. It's one of the entrances, and the left side we can see sports center, and on the right side the rental center. So yeah, the project which we end up with, we try to balance on the desire of politicians of great ambitions and something very significant, and the desire of local community not to change anything. And the funny thing, we solved this conflict by one image when we showed from the bird eye view huge scale of the park, and with the minimum of the construction site of the new construction. So politicians were kind of pleased with the scale of the existing park, and the locals was pleased to see not to find too much new buildings.
So the next project is Sports Center in Kazan, and this is our current actually ongoing project that is like almost in the final stage of construction. And we will show some of our challenges about like timing and budget in this work. So this is a master plan. It's in Kazan, and it is the largest skate park in Europe and in Russia. So we were fortunate to work with a young team, Legator Architects. They're really professional designers of skate parks, and they designed most of the master plan and all the ramps, and the object, the white box that you can see in the middle, is the interior part of the skate park, which is gigantic building. It's almost like the size of a football field. And this was the area of our intervention. So to give some context, this is a very ambitious project, and our client has huge ambition to like build it in a very limited time and to be able to open it in summer. And with this attitude in mind, they started to work really fast, and they did some preliminary planning and started to build a future warehouse to house the skate park. And basically, at the moment when we were hired for the project, the location of the sports center, its basically shape and column grid was already defined. So you can see here the picture of construction site. And when we started, we had to sort of work in parallel with construction, both like building and designing it in parallel. So when we started to talk to the client, we wanted to propose something special, but we were also like constrained so much because the shape and everything, and most of the building was defined. So our idea was to look at it at a larger scale, because like with that pace, we could not afford like nice little details, and we had to be like as conceptual as possible. So we proposed to split the building into two parts. On the diagram on the bottom, you can see that there's a hovering box on top. It's like a large, very pure, very like abstract object. And then the lower part is an active part where we propose to sort of like extend the surrounding skate park underneath our building and create these hills on which this hovering box can sit. So here's the plan of the building, and you can see these 5 big like orange hills. So we had to like work on the interior planning. We had to shuffle some spaces around, make sure that the spaces that don't need light has to be next to the hills, spaces with storefronts has to be in between. And then we proposed this like 5 hills, and each of the hill has its like own special program.
Even though now on the plan you don't see the adjusted plan, but
Yeah. Even since we put the lecture together, plan has changed. That's kind of funny. So just 3 of them, for example, one on the left, like is a skate park hill. You can like skateboard on it. You can like ride on BMX and anything you want. Like the one in the middle is like amphitheater hill. There can be like public lectures, movie screenings in front of it. And the one on the right is like a children playground hill. And all of them like are approachable, like climbable. And like here you can see how the whole picture of the building comes together. Basically the active bottom red part of the hills and this abstract big pure box on top. And for us, it was like super important to keep this project as abstract as possible. So for example, the box is cladded with this silver material that reflects the sky, and like it can pick up the color of like rising sun, the color of like blue sky, and it can change and like have different reflections during the day. This is the view towards the main entrance from underneath the like adjacent highway. So we are in construction, as I mentioned, and we tested out this facade material. And since not only we have time constraints, we also have like severe budget constraints in this project. So we selected this corrugated metal panel, which is not expensive. It's a very typical material in Russia that can be used for cladding, for like warehouses, or even for big fences. But what was interesting to us is that if you use this material, the very simple one, at such a large scale and in such a like kind of pure, uninterrupted way, then just the sheer scale of it creates a very interesting effect. So in here, how it looks now, basically it's 90% finished in terms of construction. The upper silver hovering box looks good. We're happy with how material looks like, and it was going well for a certain period of time. And then at some point, there was obviously one of those super crazy, frustrating moments that sometimes happens in the project. We were approached by our clients, and like our client and construction company kind of negotiated between each other that they want to like cancel the hills, and they asked us to produce a version of the building that doesn't have the hills. So
Not
that
only
was
they did it, not only they did it, they also told us that they spent all the money already, and we have no chances of building the hills.
yeah, basically like out of budget, also like kind of like coordinating behind our back, and also I mean,
send
not
us updated option of the facade, guys. We already spent all the
not,
budget for the hills anyway.
not the most pleasant situation ever. And obviously, like if we knew from the beginning that we cannot afford it, we will design the building in a different way. Like you cannot just chop half of the building and like say it's built, because like now it doesn't have the concept.
Yeah, here it's important to clarify. We didn't expect it would be the highest budget for the facade, but we had in our team one of the best constructors of the skate parks, which could do amazing high quality hills for a very reasonable price. And that's how the whole concept of the design was driven with. But then life gave us another surprise.
And we had an extended fight, not fight, like sort of negotiation with the clients, like trying to persuade them that they still have to find a way to do it. because like without it there is no building. And what was like probably the most important in this whole conversation is that like we already published the project. There's like a screenshot from ArcDaily on the right. The project was heavily published in Russian media as well, and it's like all over the internet. And probably this is something that helped us the most to persuade them that it's um, easier to avoid like a public humiliation in social media and just to build it rather than to like change the project at the very end.
But luckily now they have a new budget where these hills are included, and we are waiting for the construction. We hope not to receive another letter like this. Anyway, send us updated facade.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the last project which we would like to introduce today, it's also a project for which we invited our client, and he will join us in the end of this presentation. It's called Chateau Chapito, Challenge and the Dream. The project takes, basically we were mesmerized by the image of this guy, Ivan, our client, who's a very romantic guy who receives a call on the telephone and runs away from the problems of the big city to the beautiful country of Georgia, surrounded by romantic hills where he can run like a child among the goats and sheep in the fog, stand in his yellow rubber boots in the pond with his beautiful dog, and pretend he's mimicking with nature and do funny things, play music with his favorite friends who also are our clients, or sit by a beautiful Georgian table in a straw hat thinking about the beautiful Georgian nature and how to commission us a project, drinking Georgian wine, eating beautiful Georgian fruits.
But he's not only a great drinker, fruit lover, and romantic person, he is well quite famous businessman, young businessman who already had managed several successful startups in Moscow and around Moscow. And this one is his new idea. He wanted to create what he called kingdom. It's, well, technically it's a resort or glamping where people can buy shares and be part of this glamping community and come the moment when the time when they, which is fixed according to their contract of their shares. But he doesn't sell shares, he sells days. And if we think that our life consists of days, and days consist of the evenings and the fruits and the wine, that's exactly what he sells: the atmosphere, the way of living, the place where you can come and feel yourself. And he was traveling from Moscow to Israel, from Israel to Georgia, trying new businesses, inventing new stuff. And at this moment, we would like to share the next document, which called Kingdom Search for an Architect. Next one. One day we...
Sorry, I wanted to add, one of the interesting parts of this guy and of this project is that he basically proposes very unorthodox models of ownership and development, like shares, like distributed models of ownership of real estate projects, while he masquerades the whole thing in very interesting like fairy tale sort of linguistics, which also like adds up to the aesthetics. Sorry, Artem, I interrupted.
Thank you for this beautiful remark. So we continue. And one day we opened Facebook page and found a post from Ivan where he was saying, guys, I'm looking for an architect. We have a kingdom in Georgia, Georgia country, not the state in United States. And in this country, they have 120 hectares with a beautiful hills, river, and lawns, where they want to create kingdom for free, independent people. And the whole post was kind of filled with this atmosphere of independency, experimental, unknown. We weren't able to stand it, so we immediately wrote to Ivan and made some sketches and immediately went further on the next stage of the project. and proposed to make this kind of nomadic house, the house which is detached from the earth, like the visitors or the people which could belong to this community, which kind of travel through these deserts and mountains and valleys of Georgia. But at the same time combines in itself hospitality, the under part, the open part, like open living room, where all the people, all your friends and all your friends is all the people of Georgia, or probably even the world, can come, sit at the fireplace, play guitar, drink wine. But on the top would also reserve some private space for the one who's living at this time at this house. And yes, since it's called Chateau Chapito, the whole project to us was very interesting to reserve circus, Chapito, and not only in colors and in these black and white stripes, but as well in certain funniness, ridiculousness. Like here we created 4 roofs of one house which sits on top of each other, creating this complex and at the same time easy structure. We want this house to look kind of free, independent, and at the same time kind of ridiculous and funny, but free in terms of it's not afraid to look funny. Yeah, and at the same time with an amazing view to the mountains, which could be observed from the interior with a direct view, and this kind of overhanging balcony, which offers place for yoga in the morning, glass of wine in the evening. And of course, the most important place where under these 4 roofs, all the friends could gather and in this foggy day or sunny day, get some warm experience together by the fireplace. And of course, now we cannot wait for the when construction will be finished and all the kings and queens of the new kingdom will come and share this nice experience together.
Or the shareholders and shareholders. Now I would like to introduce and invite to this Zoom meeting, and this will be the final part of our lecture. So this was the final project, to invite Ivan Mitin, whom you saw in the previous images. Ivan, please join our Zoom.
I was always fascinated about creating alternative realities, and this is what I'm doing for the last 10 years. And every step is bigger in scale and experiment in scale. So yes, one of the things that I was dreaming about since I was a kid is like my own country with my own mythology and all that. And you know, it was like a dream for a long time. And then I started to create social places from very small to bigger and bigger chains and hotels on the nature and all that. And so at some point I realized that maybe it is a good time for this dream to come true, because you know, coronavirus started and I started to ask myself what I do really want. And we had this big land in Georgia we originally wanted to be just like a regular hotel, but you know, with some nice atmosphere, but the concept was like just pretty much the same, like glamping or resort or whatever. And yeah, so I came up with these thoughts of how my own country should work, like how people can interact with each other, what will they get by joining us, the community. Like, well, basically it's a global community of citizens of the world who thinks of themselves not as a belonging to some small part of the world, but to the world as a whole. And yeah, so we began to think like, okay, we want to create this place where you can always come and feel at home, and like-minded people will always be there with whom you can talk and have fun, or maybe create some new projects, make friends or whatever it is. And then we will be able to change the surroundings, our neighbors will get involved somehow in our new things that we are doing, like ecological farming or some workshops or whatever it is. And so we thought that, okay, we need money to create this infrastructure where you can always come, and what people get back in terms of physical things, not only, you know, by virtue. And yeah, I came up with this idea of eternal days. By investing money into the project, you get eternal days. It's like a subscription that lasts your lifetime and even beyond that, because you can use it forever for your family and all that. And so by investing money, depending on how much money you invested into this Chateau Chapito kingdom, you get a different amount of eternal days that you can, and as I said, it is a subscription. You get bonuses each year that is equal to the average price of the hotel, of the houses, if they would be a hotel. So, I don't know, you can get 10 days for some money. And every year you will receive enough bonuses that you can use to book houses, average house of ours for 10 days. And you can give it to your friends, you can sell it, you can keep it for yourself a few years and then spend like accumulated amount of days.
And if I may ask, Ivan, why did you, I mean, probably it's an obvious question, but maybe for people who have never been to Georgia, it would be interesting. Why did you choose Georgia as a place for this? For me, it's obvious. When I saw Georgia, your project, it all made sense, but just maybe for those who don't know what is this country, it would be nice to know.
Well, yeah, Georgia is a small but very beautiful country in Caucasus Mountains, in Caucasus region, and it's not far. I mean, it's neighboring Russia, which is one of my home countries, and most of my projects I made in Russia, so people know me in there much more than anywhere else in the world. And Georgia became pretty trendy in international tourism last few years. More and more people coming from everywhere, so keeping in mind that it's very beautiful and has very interesting culture, and the image of the country is very...
Extraordinary food, quite good wine.
Yeah, the whole image is pretty theatrical, I would say, and yeah, a lot of picturesque stuff. Yeah, so
was it interesting to you, because important to you, because to me from our side it was kind of this conscious escape from the big city, conscious escape from the big country, that we all know that the development of political situation in Russia, which goes exactly the direction none of us wanted to go, and this kind of pessimistic vision of the many things in future, was it like reaction on the political process, or it was exclusively just, let's say, business decision?
Well, first of all, I changed, I mean, I got second citizenship. I moved to Israel and I got Israeli citizenship, and the main reason was, yes, because of political things that are happening in Russia that I don't like, and I don't know, I spend a lot of time and effort fighting it, not as a fighter with guns or whatever, but I did something, and I've been to police stations for doing that and all this stuff. So I thought maybe, I mean, I'm too old to be hero, to do direct things there, and if I want
too old to be a hero of a big country, so you become hero of your own country.
Yes. So yeah, well, of course, the reason why I'm not doing this in Russia is because of political regime, and because because of political regime, there is no international tourism in Russia, almost none. And I don't want to do things just for one small country. I mean, well, Russia is the biggest country, but the population is not that big comparing to the rest of the world. And so, you know, I want to be a part of the big world, and if you do stuff in Russia, it's not that easy, because you would probably do for Russians, plus the middle class is pretty thin, and they, you know, as we can see, many of them are leaving country because they don't want to live there as well. So Georgia is...
Why did you call it kingdom, where all of us kings? It's kind of wonderful country from the childhood. Was it like part of this alternative? Because as well, like as this kind of escape, it looks like it's not only escape from the political regime, it's also escape from certain seriousness. It's like place of freedom. We're doing actually all about. It's true that many of us, all of our lives want to do quite a simple, easy things, but because of certain social restrictions, or let's say social system, we often try to play that we are not so simple, or so like we try to play certain roles, and you create the place where you exactly kind of have to play the role of the king, but in fact you do exactly what you want. And that was also like it's also very important and interesting matter to me. Could you a bit speak about the kingdomness?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's all about our inner child. I mean, for me, the concept is pretty serious in terms of what it can evolve to. I mean, in my vision, it's like 1,000 territories all over the world, million of majesties from everywhere and all that. But in order to put down a little bit the pathos, the seriousness of this, I don't want to be, tyrann or whatever it is, and I don't want...
Just a king.
Just a king, yes, that's all I want.
The economical reason, the economical backstage, how it works, the permanent days, the investment, more economical part of it.
So we created a joint stock company in Georgia. One of the reasons why we are here is also because it's pretty easy to do this kind of stuff in this country. And it means that a lot of people are allowed to become a shareholder of the company, and like endless amount of people if we want to. So by inviting everyone to become our majesties, to become kings or queens, and get eternal days, people get shares of the company and literally becoming co-owners of the company. And we want this, because we want people to feel that this is something that belongs to them, and it is all about, democracy, though we are called kingdom, and it's all about co-ownership and co-creation of the place. So if you feel that you belong to this, it's yours, it's a very different attitude when you deal with it. When you come as a guest to your own place, it's much different thing than when you come just as a customer. And by investing money, you get this eternal days that you can use in many different ways. And it means that everything belongs to you from now on. Like farm, every road, every lamp is also, there is a small part that belongs to you too. And later you can vote and decide on how the project will get on. Like all the initiatives that our community can create, and we can vote for this. And all the profit that this company gets will go for improvement of our lives and the lives of our neighbors. So that's the main idea, like to change the ecological stuff that is happening right now in the world, and to change the lives of local people, not only us, but locals, inviting them to this new mode of production and consumption. So yeah, So people can get money by selling their bonuses from eternal days or use them as, you know, to live. It's kind of a retirement, you know, you invest right now into your future retirement because you know that there is a place that belongs to you. Maybe it's just a couple of days a year, or maybe it's a whole year. And if there will be hundreds of places all over the world, it means that it works everywhere, all over the world. So you belong to such a country that has a lot of enclaves everywhere.
It's a very beautiful idea, and we also very like that it combines this fantasy and childhood kind of attitude with quite a serious idea and quite serious background, and that's what we also try, I think, to combine in our practice, and that's why I think we found common ground with you, and we hope that we will really build this house very soon. I think with this we would like to wrap up this presentation. We thank you everyone. We are currently not on live, but we thank everyone who will join this when it will be published by Canadian Centre of Architecture. We thank again those who invited us. We thank all our clients of whom we spoke today, and particularly Ivan.
I hope they're not too angry to us.
Yes, and we thank Ivan Mitin, who joined us from his beautiful Chateau Chapito in Georgia. Thank you very much.
Thank you everyone, and bye-bye.
Thank you.